All right. Hello, everyone. I'm finally back on video. I had started making a couple of videos and they did not get uploaded because of storage issues on my phone. And right now um, I don't have a computer. So I'm working with a phone, and the phone that I actually was using for videos, I can't clear storage on it, and I don't know why. It used to give me about 45 minutes to work with. So I'm on my other phone and I have 20 minutes of storage to make a video. Anyway, so today I'm going to play catch up on videos. And the first video today is in response to Uber Hint's discussion on our riders or drivers safer. Mark made a lot of good points, as he always does, and he's totally on it, but I want to add some stuff. First of all, in regard to situations where a crime is committed by a driver against a passenger or by a passenger against a driver, the first thing that one needs to do is call the police and file a report. When you have a report from the police and then you go to Uber or Lyft, they're going to take it much more seriously. You can't just let it go and call Uber and Lyft and expect Uber and Lyft to provide law enforcement services, because that's not what they do. Okay? If you're calling and complaining to Uber and Lyft, for instance, with the sexual assault stuff, all they have is somebody calling up and saying this is what happened. Okay, but it's not a police matter at that point. Once it becomes a police matter and the police have recorded a report of a crime and are in a position to investigate and potentially arrest a suspect, that's when it becomes real. So that's what people need to do. If you are in a situation where someone commits a crime against you, you need to call the police and discuss it with the police. And then go back and discuss it with Uber and Lyft later. Because you call up and say, I contacted the police, I have a police report. Okay. The companies may not give you information. I was just reading something today where they're saying that somebody tried to report it to the police but could not get the information from Uber and Lyft on the driver that committed the offense to provide to the police. That's because at that point in the game, Uber and Lyft have no obligation to give a civilian any information. But when the police contact them looking for information because they're investigating something, that's a whole different story, and that makes your situation real. But what I also want to talk about in terms of risk, what the real risk is for drivers. And what the real risk is for drivers is a car accident, particularly one that you're at fault. Because you're out there working all those hours and you're not just commuting back and forth to a job or running around doing your errands. You are on the road 6 hours for a shift, or 8 hours, or in my case, and the case of many professional full-time drivers, we're on the road 12 hours for a shift. That greatly increases our odds of something happening. Okay, the reality is the way insurance works is nobody is telling you the truth, but drivers who've been in the business, who have had the opportunity, who've been in an unfortunate situation, or know someone who has been in an unfortunate situation involving an accident, are well aware of how the insurance really works. Okay, you guys think you're covered by Uber and Lyft. Think again. Uber and Lyft insure Uber and Lyft. If you get in an accident and do harm to someone's property or bodily harm to somebody, first of all, you're out of a job. You're off the platform. You're going to get deactivated. Secondly, Uber and Lyft are going to refer the claimant to your insurance company first. Okay? Their insurance is only going to back you up if they are put up against the wall by a claimant's lawyer. In my case, I've been in this business 30 years. I've had the same insurance agent for over 20 years, and she's done my taxi policies as well as my personal policies. And she also did a commercial policy for my dad, which at that time was under Progressive. And when I got back into driving after I had been off the road for 6 years, after I shut my livery business down because Uber and Lyft took all our business, and then I worked in retail for 3 years, and then I was recovering from some health issues, and I got back to work when a very close friend of mine, who happens to own a small fleet of Priuses that were on the local cab company's fleet, transitioned all his drivers and cars over to Uber and Lyft, and he had a slot available for me. So I was able to get in a Prius because at the time I had a 20-year-old Lexus, and I couldn't use it for Uber and Lyft. And it worked out that I ended up with a Lincoln off of ExecuCar's fleet and the Prius at the same time, and I was working in both cars, and I quit working in the Lincoln because there are no select rides in my market, really. I was lucky if I was getting one a week. But I had a lot of insurance on the Lincoln. I'm under a group policy that my friend has on the Priuses, but with my Lincoln, on my rideshare endorsement, what the rideshare endorsement does is it allows you to be covered for passenger transportation with Uber and Lyft, for the amount of liability that you carry on your personal policy. And in the state of Arizona, you're required to have 15,000, 30,000. And I was required, my insurance agent insisted I carry 100, 150 because she wanted me insured for twice the value of my home. Well, my home's worth a whole heck of a lot more money now than it was 2 years ago, and it was when I bought it and insured it. But that's besides the point. She had me carry twice as much liability as the amount my home was insured for. Because from her perspective, she's like, if your claim is more than the liability that you carry, they could go for your house. So where you are at risk as a driver is the reality is you are responsible for people's lives and limbs. And you are just as liable for somebody's life and limbs as a surgeon. If you severely injure somebody, or if you kill somebody, you could lose. You're done. You're going to lose everything unless you have enough insurance to cover yourself. So, just for the record, that is where everyone's risk is. It is. It has to do with your insurance. you carry every bit of liability when you're out there working this job. The liability is all on you. Again, Uber and Lyft insure Uber and Lyft. You need to insure yourself. And you are risking everything every time you go out there on the road to work. Now, back in the days when I drove a taxi, I got paid more sufficiently. Back in June, I actually got hit in my work Prius. I did not have a passenger. We did not report it to Uber and Lyft because it had nothing to do with them. I didn't have a passenger. It was none of their business. But the car was totaled. And because of the situation and there were no witnesses and the way it worked out, I ended up having to be the responsible party. And back in the days of when I drove a taxi or drove a livery car or drove airport sedans, we were paid enough by the mile that we made a good living. And a situation like that with a $2,000 deductible on this car was a bump in the road. It would take a week to get back on track. But because of the poor wages that we get this way, this was a 2-month ordeal for both me and the guy that owns the car. Basically, it took us that long to overcome the situation. The car, we ended up totaling the car. I didn't have to pay the $2,000 deductible because I put my foot down and I said, look, if I'm paying the deductible, I want the car. I actually was going to put the repair on a credit card, and I said, I'll pay for the entire repair, but I want the car. And he decided he was going to total the car. They determined that it was a really huge job because the suspension was pretty damaged. And so he just collected the insurance on it minus the deductible. The car had 640,000 miles on it, which was great. It would have gone on making money for a long time to come. We were going for 1 million miles on it, but that's the way that it is. So really, just understand, if you're trying to skate by saving money on insurance by having the lowest liability possible, think again. You really need to cover yourself for a lot more because anything could happen. And even if it's not your fault, you could end up being the one having to be responsible based on the judgment call of a police officer in a situation. So that is really what your risk is. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I am going to be doing videos discussing all this stuff that's coming out in the media about tipping. And I also am going to be doing a video about the reality of ratings and issues with ratings and how ratings relate to the fact that we are subject to ratings is actually favors the AB5 issues. So I'm going to do some videos on those things and some other things coming up soon. And for right now, I'm going to close out this video. Again, please like and subscribe. If you don't know anything about me, I've been in the passenger transportation industry for 30 years. My dad also has about 28 years under his belt. One of my best friends has over 30 years, and another friend has a good 20 years in the industry. And we have a very different perspective on a lot of things than the new breed of driver who's out there. Anyway, have a good day, everyone, and thanks for watching.